News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. It is official, the case of Tim Walz and possibly abandoning his troops and accused of stolen valor by J.D. Vance and many others. It's bad. This is very, very bad because guess what just happened? His boss, his now retired Command Sergeant, Doug Julien, who was his boss, and he was supposed to go to him and say, Doug, I'm out. And he never did. He went behind his back, and he went to somebody 2 steps higher because he knew Doug Julien. You're going to hear him in here. He calls him a quitter. He says he quit. He also says I would have told him no because 90 days before they deployed, he was in the meetings. Tim Walz was in the meetings planning the deployment with the top echelon. He was planning. You'll hear him right now. Here's his retired Command Sergeant, Doug Julien.
Again, this whole time period, we're doing what's called building a team to go forward to Iraq. After the meeting, Tim Walz came in and sat down to me because I had talked to him before and said, I need to know what this answer is at that time. He came in, we sat and talked. He told me, he says, I have not been nominated. I am going forward with the battalion. I said, good, let's go. We got the team built. We're starting to build the team out there. A month lapsed or a little bit more lapsed, and in June, we went to Camp Ripley for our meeting again, and I walked into the team, the meeting hall, and Tom Behrens was there, and I asked Tom what he was doing there, and that's when he informed me that he had quit. He knew the policies and procedures and how we go to leadership and address issues or discuss issues and concerns out there. Again, backing up, he had told me, no, I'm going forward. We're going to go with the battalion and go from there. So I'm under the believing, he told me he was going forward. I'm underneath that believing that he's going forward. He went around me, which he should have addressed it with me so he could help do some things out there. He went around me, and the fact is that this possibility, he probably would have realized I would have probably no, it's too late, you're going forward. Because we had already received our notification of sourcing. And there's one other little point out there that people say, well, he hadn't been notified yet. Yes, he had been notified. Now, there's another step out there. There's what's called stop loss. 90 days prior to the actual deployment, we received our orders. And at that time is what's called stop loss, where if you're in a position, you're going forward irregardless, unless there's some really major or process that gets you out from not going on the deployment itself. So there's that window of opportunity there. People say we never knew he was going forward. Yeah, he knew he was going forward. Had he gotten his orders yet? No, at that time he had not.
He knew he was going forward, and his supervisor, he was supposed to go to, his commander, his retired Command Sergeant Doug Julien, on CNN last night said he would have not been allowed to ditch. Had he asked me, I would have told him no. Stop loss. And for you in the military, you're listening right now or you're retired, listen to me now. I believe this man is a draft dodger, even though he didn't get drafted. But the same thing, he literally ran away from war, and he knew, and he chose to go run in Congress, and he ditched his men. He was in charge of them, 500 of them. He ditched them, and he let them go, and some of them died. Many of them, listen to this. Remember he talked about, if you heard him rip on why he didn't bring in the National Guard for 3 days and let Minneapolis burn for 3 days, and he said, well, they're 19-year-old cooks. Guess what? A 19-year-old named Sergeant Kyle Miller went when you ditched him, and he died at 19. Quote, my son wasn't even 21 years old. He couldn't even buy alcohol. Yet he took the step to serve our country while Walz found the best way to run away. It was coward's way out. And then also shortly thereafter, a year later, Sergeant First Class David Berry was killed a year later. It makes me want to cry to know that young men, the age of my son or even younger, went to war, and this guy ditched him, and they died. He was their commander. He was in charge, and he ditched it, and he knew his boss would say, no, stop loss. You've been called up. You were in 90 days before. You are not going anywhere. You're going to war, you coward. So he went around him two ranks up to get through, like a little child trying to, like when I was 16 years old or 15 years old and I worked at the freaking grocery store and I lied about, sleeping in because I wanted to blow off work. This is worse. Children are dead. Young adults are dead. He did not go into battle. He never saw combat. That is a lie. You're going to hear Nancy Pelosi in a little bit introducing him and said he was in combat, and he never corrected her. The first thing he should have said is, ma'am, I never saw combat. I would never say that. And I'm going to tell you right now, every honorable person I hear in the media and stuff when they're talking that served will say, I never saw combat, and they make sure you know, because they don't want to get stolen valor. That is stolen valor. This man also lied about his rank. He never achieved it because he didn't take the test and finish the training that was necessary to become the sergeant major, I believe he was claiming he was, or whatever his rank was. I want to hear from military people, but I want to hear from you too. How much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is? How much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is, and how badly do you think it is stolen valor? Because he claims he went to war when he never did. He claims he was in combat. He never did. He claims he had a quote, weapon of war in war. I can play that for you. I played it twice before. How badly do you think Tim Walz has been misrepresenting his service to our country? And if you're a veteran, how does this make you feel? Those are my three questions for you at 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. We have 3.5 minutes. Get on the phone right now. We'll get you in. 800-288-9227. How much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is? How badly do you think Tim Walz has been misrepresenting his service to our country? And if you're a veteran, how does this make you feel? 800-288-9227. I know a lot of people that served. So many people that listen to this station have served, and I love you, and God bless you for that. Whether you saw combat or not is not relevant to me. You know how this is. You know how these things work. You know how stop-loss works, where you are not allowed to leave when there's a mission coming up, and that stop-loss means you can extend their service beyond what the contract says because something comes up like war. These people, let me tell you something else that breaks my heart and makes me so angry and so sad. These people went to war. They fought in combat for 2 years in Iraq. This son of a bee sat at home and ran for Congress while these young men died. They went to war they were in hell for 2 years. They were in hell for 2 years. I have a personal long-term friendship with a man who I raised a lot of money for his son, and I rode towards the very front of the whole parade memorializing his son's life. And I've also ridden in caravans for funerals, and I've been on the actual tarmac when we receive the body. You can see the mom and the wife crying, and been in those processionals with the Patriot Guard riders and everything. And I mean, these people went in hell, and they were getting shot at and killed for 2 years. And this son of a bee, I want to say the word, this son of a bee ditched them. This is stolen valor by lying that you went to combat. It is misrepresenting his service, and this is a big freaking deal. I'm not in the military, but to me, this is a big freaking deal. This is a BFD. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. 3 lines open. How much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is? How badly do you think Tim Walz has been misrepresenting his service to our country? And if you're a veteran, how does this make you feel? I'm going to play for you one more piece of audio from retired Command Sergeant Doug Julien, who was his commander, and said, yes, he quit. Yes, he hid, and he went around and he quit, and I wouldn't have let him quit if he asked me to.
The other issue out there is that the individual that approved this was two levels higher than myself in the enlisted corps, and should have had Tim Walz come back to me and talk to me about this and discuss this as to why he was going forward now or not going forward now, after he'd already told me he was going forward. The real thing is that the level that he held at that time, which,
by the way, did you hear that? He had already told me he was going forward. They were in meetings planning their outfit, their outfit, which is the I got it here. But the point being is, he said that, here we go, the Minnesota's first congressional, the Walz's 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery Unit. He was in the plans to send the unit out. He was there. He was in the groundwork. Let me finish up, and I rewinded a few seconds and keep going here.
When he was going forward. The real thing is that the level that he held at that time, which could have been either a first sergeant, but he was conditionally promoted to Command Sergeant Major, he knew the rules or the policies or the procedures and the manner of how to address issues going forward. If this would have been an early entry low-level ranking individual, different story. We would have understood that, okay, he didn't understand the processes and the procedures. Tim Walz knew the processes and the procedures. He went around me and above and beyond me and went to get somebody to back him to get him out of there without, it was just a backdoor process that he handled against me or against the battalion out there.
This makes me want to cry, and this angers me. I think of the beautiful young men and women who fight and die. Many of them, at least two of them, died in his outfit, and he ditched them. It's vile. It's reprehensible. He was their leader. This is disgusting. This is angering. All right, Ryan in Eula says this is a spit in the face. We'll hear what he says first. Coming up next, we have two lines open. Then we'll get to Matthew in Waxahachie. We have so much on this. How much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is with Tim Walz? How badly do you think Tim Walz has been misrepresenting his service to our country? And if you're a veteran, how does this make you feel? 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Two lines open. This is serious. This was on CNN last night for 10 minutes. This is not good for this guy, and it shouldn't be good for him. That's next in 3 minutes at 10:17 on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. Plus, Breonna Keeler doing the liberal job by attacking J.D. Vance's service, and she gets smacked down and has to walk it back today for the disgusting things she said about J.D. Vance's service. Next.
I also think that J.D. Vance, as a messenger on this, may be an imperfect messenger, because we have, as you introduced him, as a combat correspondent, which was what his title was. But when you dig a little deeper into that, he was a public affairs specialist, someone who did not see combat, which certainly the title combat correspondent kind of gives you a different impression. So he may be the imperfect messenger on that.
Now comes this elitist twit who's never been in a war zone as she has. It was certainly not like J.D. Vance was, and she's never been in the military as far as I'm aware. J.D. Vance went after her big time on Twitter. Breonna, this is disgusting, and you and your entire network should be ashamed of yourself. When I got the call to go to Iraq, I went. Tim Walz said he carried a gun in war. Did he? No, it was a lie. Vance told reporters Wednesday, I served in a combat zone. I never said I saw combat or firefight myself, but I've always told the truth about my Marine Corps service. That's the difference. You know what breaks my heart? Here's what it is. These two young men died. A 19-year-old boy a young man who went off with the Minnesota National Guard. He was at junior high school. He signed up, graduated June 2005, deployed to Iraq with the 125th. After he completed basic training, he was in Iraq for 4 months, and he was killed by a roadside bomb in Balad. June 29, 2006, the West Central Tribune reported that time. My son stepped up to the plate, the woman said. His mother, Kathy Miller, said, all of our sons stepped up. That's Sergeant Kyle Miller, 19, dead, killed in action. I don't think it's fair that Walz takes credit when he didn't step up to the plate. Walz claims a rank he never earned. When he was called to serve and protect our country, he didn't. To publicly present this false prestige of his earned rank and inaccurate representation as a falsehood of who he truly is. She never reached out to him, she told the Daily Mail. He never reached out to her. Walz never reached out to her son. Then in February 22nd of 2007, another squad leader was killed. A young man with the last name of Berry, killed with an IED by his Humvee in Qasim. He was 37, and he'd been with the 125th since the mobilization for deployment October 2005. He was awarded the Soldier's Medal, the highest peacetime honor, for pulling an unconscious man from a burning pickup truck on a remote highway near Wichita, while this bleepity bleep was kissing babies and saying I'm a combat veteran and I went into war. Here's why I'm so upset, and this is why I think it's stolen valor. And I want to hear from you, because especially those of you who have served. I think it's stolen valor because it's taking the mantle and the title while you ran away, saying you've seen combat, saying you were in war, taking the hero status you never earned. That's stolen valor. You're taking the hero status you never earned, and he never earned it, but he sure is acting like it, and he's accepting plaudits and laudits for it, and he says he's been in combat. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. How much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is with Vice Presidential candidate Tim Walz? How badly do you think Tim Walz has been misrepresenting his service to our country? And if you're a veteran, how does this make you feel? Ryan and Euless, hello, WBAP.
Hello, how's it going?
Hi.
Honestly, I honestly think if we put Camel Toe Harris and Tampon Tim in our office, we really need to rethink ourselves as a country. That dude is totally stolen valor. I agree with you 100%. He's a disgrace to our country, and it's a spit in our face as service members. I served 8 years in the Marine Corps.
Thank you.
I was a combat veteran 3 times.
Where did you go? Where did you go?
I went to Iraq twice and Afghanistan once.
You saw real combat. You didn't see Tim Walz combat, which is nothing. He claims he was in a war zone when he was in Italy. He was in Italy.
I took shrapnel from a Humvee being blown up right beside me, so I know.
He says he said he literally said he did serve in a war zone, and that's because he served in Operation Enduring Freedom, but all he did was do support stuff from a base in Italy.
He may have served the title of the war, but he didn't serve the war.
Last time we saw combat was in Italy, was in World War II. Am I mistaken?
You're not.
So is it a lie for him to tell us he was in war as a combat veteran?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Let's play Nancy Pelosi, what she said to him, and he comes on right after her, does not correct her.
We'll hear from Command Sgt. Major Tim Walz. And I was so moved by some of what Tim has said in this. He said he taught these young people in high school, and then he had to lead them in the armed services. So he knows the potential of our young people and what we put at risk when we send them into harm's way without the equipment that they need. He will speak for himself, but I want him to know how much we all appreciate his service to our country, whether it's in the classroom or on the battlefield. Congressman Tim Murphy. On the battlefield.
And here he doesn't correct her. Listen.
If he didn't serve on a battlefield.
No, he didn't listen.
I don't believe
he didn't listen.
Excuse me. Congressman Tim Walz of Minnesota. I was thinking of his state.
That's what happens when you're roommates. Might start looking alike. Well, thank you, Madam Speaker.
Yeah, he didn't correct her at all. Stolen valor.
Wow.
He said it too. He said, "I've these weapons of war which I carried in combat." He said, "I played that one the other day. I can pull it back up." Yeah. So what do you say? Is that stolen valor? And
that's stolen valor.
How does it make you feel?
It makes me sick. Honestly, it makes me sick. I have no other words for it.
Why?
Because I served in combat. For somebody to say they've been in combat and they have never been in combat, that's a disgrace.
I appreciate.
I've been shot at. I've been hit. I mean, it is a disgrace.
I am grateful for your service, Ryan. I'm grateful for your opinion on that. Matthew, you got 30 seconds. Go.
Hey there, sir. I've also done a few combat deployments. I'm an officer. Active duty about 10 years.
Thank you.
Reserve since then.
Thank you for your service.
The only reason I was going to comment was we have about 4 stages for deployment prep.
Yeah.
Certify, prepare, available, commit, and then reset. So when people say they don't know that they're getting tasked, we know about 6 months prior to the 6 months of tasking.
Yeah, this was 2-3 months before, and he actually was planning the deployment with his commanders.
Yeah, so when we know before we know, if that makes sense. So we may have orders at a certain date, prep, usually about 6 months out, but we know about another 6 months prior because we were prepped to train and get ready.
Is this stolen valor? Well, actually, do you have more to say? Because I can put you on hold. You want to stand by?
Yeah, it's up to you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, he's got more. I want to draw a little more out of him. Plus your thoughts. 800-288-WBAP, 800-288-9227. Coming up at 8:33, we're going to talk more about this. I'm going to give you more specifics about a stop loss, which is what his commander said he would have done, and he wouldn't have been allowed to go anywhere. Then we're going to get into Governor Abbott now saying every hospital in Texas has to report how much the illegals are costing us in healthcare, and that's very good for that. That's all coming up at 8:33. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3.
Again, this whole time period, we're doing what's called building a team to go forward to Iraq. After the meeting, Tim Walz came in and sat down to me because I had talked to him before and said, I need to know what his answer is at that time. He came in, we sat and talked. He told me, he says, I have not been nominated. I am going forward with the battalion. I said, good, let's go. We got the team built. We're starting to build the team out there. A month lapsed or a little bit more lapsed, and in June, we went to Camp Ripley for our meeting again, and I walked into the team, the meeting hall, and Tom Behrens was there, and I asked Tom what he was doing there, and that's when he informed me that he had quit.
He quit, and he would have been told, no, you're not going anywhere. You were in the plannings of this. You're the conditionally promoted Command Sergeant Major. I'm over you. You've made these plans with me. You said you were in. We're putting them together to go to combat, and you are not leaving. He said stop loss kicks in, where no matter what his contract says, you're in because we need you and we're going to war. And do you not remember when we planned this together? You and me and the leaders of this outfit, the what was it? The Minnesota National Guard's 1st Battalion, 125th Field Artillery Unit. And they did lose young men. So how much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is? Walz has said he has carried a weapon of war into at war and in combat, and we don't want those weapons being in our country. He never went to war. He never saw combat. When introduced as a combat veteran, he did not contradict it. I played that for you last segment. This is stolen valor to me, and it's stolen valor because he's taken the hero status he never earned. That's stolen valor. You take the hero status you never earned, whether it be a medal or whether saying you were in combat and you saw combat and you never were. Being at a base in Italy, serving Operation Enduring Freedom from Italy, is not a combat veteran. You are not in combat. I'm not. I've never been. I've never served. 3 out of 4 of us men in my family did. I'm the only one. Can you tell why? Maybe my big mouth. But, I'm not an expert. But combat, you're not a combat veteran. You did not go to war if you sat in Italy, unless you were there fighting Mussolini in World War II. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. How much of a case of stolen valor do you think this is? How badly do you think Tim Walz has been misrepresenting his service to our country? And if you're a veteran, how does this make you feel? 800-288-9227. Chime in right now. 4 lines open. Matthew, I should say, in Waxahachie. Thanks for holding, brother. You served. What outfit did you serve with, and how many tours did you do?
So I was active duty Air Force for about 10 years. I served in Africa multiple times, Syria, Jordan, and a few other places.
Syria, wow.
Yes, sir, in 2016. I was attached to Army units as a combat logistics officer. And
combat logistics officer?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to guess you're on one of the 2 or 3 or 4, however many we have tiny little bases there that is killing ISIS.
I was able to have do a few things, have a little bit of fun.
Yes.
And after that, I was actually a mission planner for NORAD in a few operations, so I was able to plan deployments and forward movements as an actual certified planner with the Army.
So you really know what this is all about. You plan deployments.
Yeah. So I mean, I'll be honest with the stolen valor thing. I'm a little torn on. I may have a different opinion than a lot of the guys.
Okay.
I don't know if it qualifies to that, but to be honest with you, it's more of a disdain thing. I worked with guys, and people come up and say, I did this. We're just like, all right, cool, man. It's more of those kind of nod and wave, and we just kind of look down, and when they talk, we just kind of tune them out. So while it may qualify as stolen valor, and a lot of the guys may have some opinions, and absolutely I respect them, it is much more of a I don't want to say pity. Okay, pat on the back, wish you the best. We both know your line. You know your line. I know your line. I know your line. Carry on.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so it's more one of those, and it's more of a sad. It's sad, to be honest with you.
Why is it sad?
It's sad because when people can convince themselves their lie is the truth, there's really not much you can say to them. And you see that a lot with military guys, and God bless them. There's nothing with not serving combat, nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Right. And you see guys that they get out and they feel like they should have, they would have, they could have. But like I said, honestly, with not saying he knew he was tasked, that's pure BS. I can close that.
Do you believe that it is as his command sergeant says it was? He's a retired Command Sergeant Doug Julien that oversaw him, the one that he was supposed to go to try to get out of his deployment, that he helped plan in meetings as a leader. Do you believe him that he's a quitter, that he quit?
Absolutely. Because, I mean, I'll be honest, when guys come to me and say they're retiring, some of my guys, I'm in a decent enough rank now that I have guys that'll come to me and say, hey, this isn't for me. I'm not built for this. My family's in this condition. This is not where I'm at mentally. I'm like, yeah, man, that's actually the right call. Take care of yourself, do your thing, take the knee, respect to you. But when guys do that and say they didn't know, they're lying to you, because we will literally sit down and plan out entire task board and break down here's doing what, especially with Guard and Reserve. I'm a reservist now. Mm-hmm. We know even further in advance because we have the civilian aspect to take care of. Active duty, they say, hey, we get a call tomorrow. Yeah, hey, this is our full-time job. Let's go. Reservists and guardsmen, they get tasked potentially as far as 2 years out. I'm not saying that happened in this case.
Well,
that happens quite often.
Yeah, his command sergeant says that I played it all in the past several segments, piece by piece. I pulled about 3 minutes of the 10-minute interview, and he said that in the meetings, well before, like 90 days or so before the deployment was ordered, he was planning, and they came together at one of the facilities they gathered at a camp or something, and they put the plan together, and he said, as you heard him say, he said, let's go. All right, let's go. We made the plan, let's go. And so he did tell him I might be going to Congress, and then he checked in with him a month later, no, I'm still not, haven't been picked yet, and so there you go. And then all of a sudden he snuck behind his back and got out, and it makes me mad. I was thinking, as I read into this more, and I was watching this more yesterday and today, I think in his mind he thought, this is my chance. I'm going to ditch my people and my unit so that I can win Congress. And if I don't do it now, I might lose that window for a long time. So it's now or never. And I think the honorable thing would have been to do what he was supposed to do, that he had committed to do, and that his boss his boss said, that guy, Commander Julian, said he would not have let him off to leave.
Yes. Yeah. So I would say E7 and above, and about 03, 04 and above, so the junior enlisted junior officers may not know who's actually going. We know a unit staff, we don't have names attached.
And that's what he said.
But E7 and above, which is what he was, and 03, 04 above, they know, hey, this is a 1 deep tasking. We have a 1 deep qualification or a 1 deep person here. We know we're going. The names may not be attached to it. So for that to happen, honestly, completely disdainful. So that 100%. The Soul and Valor thing, I'll be honest, that's not my argument.
Yeah, I got you.
Things on that. But this, 100%, backed out and left people high and dry.
He
100%.
reminds me of when I was a child. You're all in, and then you sneak away, and you think you can get away with it and all that stuff, and then you turn around and you use it as if you went. That's what's disgusting.
100%. I'll be honest. I can never shake that hand. So I appreciate your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, my friend. All right. God bless you. Okay, coming up next on the Chris Crock Show, News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3 at 45 after the hour. Greg Abbott is issuing an executive order that requires all hospitals in Texas, public hospitals, to collect information on illegals who get care and send them in quarterly the cost of the illegal health care. And he's going to go after the Harris-Biden administration to pay for their illegals, because they are bankrupting us. And when they're not raping us, murdering us, killing us in a drunken driving crash, murdering us with Tren de Aragua and other sick gangs, or beating our women to the ground and stealing their purses on stolen scooters in gangs in New York, when they're not merged, they've merged with MS-13 in Chicago and New York, according to our FBI. When they're not doing that, they're doing other horrific things, like abducting a 12-year-old girl, Jocelyn Nungare, in Houston, raping her for 2 hours, and then strangling her to death and leaving her dead in the body for the first person to come across her driving in to drop his spouse off at work, and he sees it looked like a mannequin in a ravine. It was a beautiful little girl who was destroyed by one of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's illegals. And they have no shame, and they don't want to go back. They love this stuff, and it's disgusting, it's angry, and it's vile. That, my friends, is coming up in 3 minutes on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3. News Talk 820 WBAP, now on FM at 93.3. Make it a preset, y'all. 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. Governor Greg Abbott now ordering executive order that requires Texas public hospitals to collect information on illegal immigrants who receive care at our hospitals, including the cost of care, in an effort to get the federal government to pay for those health care costs, reports KU out of Houston, TV affiliate, TV station. The order, Governor Abbott said, because Joe Biden and Kamala and their open border policies is why he's doing this, directing hospitals to identify providers to collect information regarding the cost of medical care for illegals, and also to inform the patient. It has nothing to do with your legal status and what's going to happen. You just tell us what your legal status is. It applies to hospitals enrolled in Medicaid and Children's Health Insurance Program, as well as many others. CHIP, I guess. That comes in number one, and I think that's fantastic. And of course, the question on that is, how do you feel about Governor Abbott forcing Texas hospitals to report their costs for healthcare for illegals? Is it going too far, or invasion of privacy or something to you? I don't think it's going too far at all. I think we need to know who we're paying for that's here illegally. They spent $10,000 on a smuggler to bring them in illegally. Then they should be able to pay their own health care. And if they don't or they won't, then Kamala and Joe can, because this is what they wanted, and this is what they still want now. So how do you feel about Governor Abbott forcing Texas hospitals to report their costs on health care for illegals? Who do you think should pay for these Kamala Biden illegals in Texas? Who do you think should pay for it, huh? Remember, many of the Tren de Aragua, which is the violent, terrorist, murderous, drug-selling and female raping and prostituting gang that has come in and taken hold in our country only since Joe and Kamala left the border wide open. They just have, and Venezuela has ditched. I want to remind you that Venezuela is a fallen state with its president that's not a real president. Nicolas Maduro has officially been ruled as the fake president. The real president won, and our government officially came out and said that a week ago after their fake elections. So they emptied their prisons out under Maduro, and they have the Bloomberg News reported the lowest level of crime in Venezuela in 19 years. All their violent thugs have come here because this is a much deeper well. Wall Street Journal did a story on the front cover a couple of years ago. I've been telling you about it, I don't know, for years. The Venezuelan thug focused. They had a Venezuelan thug kicking up against the car, standing there, and they're like, he was complaining. He's like, I have one bullet left in my gun. Everybody I hold a gun to says they have nothing. Nobody has anything anymore. So what do? You come here because you're so freaking awesome. You can run laps around our thugs and our gangs. You come here and you get so freaking rich off the people here who expect regular gangs or regular criminal gangs. These people will beat the crap out of you and cut your head off, put your daughter into sex slavery, or kill her or behead her. They behead the prostitutes that compete with their prostitutes. I mean, they're worse than MS-13. And Joe and Kamala have brought them all over this country. You remember Laken Riley, her killer? Guess what? He's with Tren de Aragua. And guess what? Both of his brothers are with Tren de Aragua. One of his brothers that was there at UGA, University of Georgia, he was trying to apply as a dishwasher with fake IDs and fake everything. He was caught he was arrested for being a peeping Tom and an RA, a resident assistant at the UGA that day that he was killing Laken. They were taking care of raping, murder, killing, peeping in on, probably looking for who's going to rape. Right there. Come in and just do whatever you want with us. How about the illegal from Venezuela that has been arrested for killing a mother of 5 and raping her for jogging, just because she was jogging in Maryland? It goes on and on and on. How about the two illegals that Joe flew in directly from Haiti, who one raped a 15-year-old girl, another one raped a developmentally disabled adult, both in Massachusetts. Massachusetts is broke. They say they can't afford the illegals. They need $500 million just to sustain their budget because there's too many illegals there. Guess what else? You know that Pakistani man that was flown in, allowed to stay here, and was just charged with plotting to kill Donald J. Trump at the direction of the Iran government? You know that guy? Remember that? We just arrested him for trying to kill Trump. Guess what? He was illegal. He was let in on conditional probation, even though he's from Pakistan. He went from Iran. He flew in from here directly to Iran, and he's from Pakistan. And in fact, the FBI of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris said he's a significant public benefit parole allowed him to fly in, even though he's flagged. He was flagged in a terrorism watch list. They let him come in, and guess what? He was only supposed to stay here until May 11th. He overstayed his visa by 2 months, and he was about to kill Trump. Yeah, until we arrested him. That's one of Joe's illegals. It goes on and on and on. So who do you think should pay for all these Kamala Biden illegals in Texas? And do you want to, should these illegals be forced to, the hospitals be forced to say how much they're shelling out to illegals? 800-288-WBAP is our number, 800-288-9227. I want to remind you that many of these rapists and murderers that have come in through our border have come in through Texas. In El Paso, in Eagle Pass, and other of our our border sector entry points. They come in, they're allowed in. 2 of them were allowed in to go to Houston, where they raped and murdered Jocelyn Nungre, the 12-year-old girl. Same thing for Laken Riley, and it just goes on and on. Look at this. Look at how many terrorists have been allowed in. 100 illegal immigrants on the terror watch list were let in and were released, even though they were on the last watch list from dozens of countries. More than 250 illegals on the terrorist watch list have been encountered by Border Patrol in 2 years alone. They have released many of these illegal terrorist watch list people into communities, at least 99 of them. 2,100 Afghan nationals, 33,300 Chinese illegals, 541 Iranians, 520 Syrians, 3,100 Uzbek nationals from Uzbekistan, which is a terrorist state. Does not include 2 million gotaways. 2 million people who do not want to be interdicted, do not want to turn themselves in because they're child molesters, they're rapists, they're murderers, or gang members, and that's why they don't want you to find out who they are. They don't report themselves and get into the process where Joe and Kamala would eventually give them legal status. They're from 36 different countries: Afghanistan, Iraq, Lebanon, Pakistan, Somalia, Syria, Tajikistan, Yemen. These are all terrorist havens. Joe and Kamala have let in so many illegals that are want to kill us and want to do us harm. Many of these people initially contain only the database we have, called the terrorist screening data set, initially only contained known or suspected terrorists. Now it includes potential threats for terrorism. Never did for the first 3 years. Just get these illegals in. Joe and Kamala want them in. The number of encounters on the terror watch list has now gone up 3,000%. 3,000% under Joe and Kamala. Are you telling me that you're going to be surprised when our next 9/11 happens in a year or two? It's already in the works. They've let them in. 400 illegals were brought in by an ISIS-affiliated smuggling network in the past several months alone. Allahu Akbar! They're going to kill us, and it's going to happen. It's because of Kamala and Joe. And don't act surprised. We've been telling you, I've been telling you, many people have been telling you for a while. A Denver jewelry store seen looted in a viral post. I talked about this when it happened. A gang of thieves, 7 males, went in and grabbed a woman by the hair. They held him at gunpoint. They stole all the jewelry. They're part of Tren de Aragua in Denver, known for ruthless killing, sparking chaos in South America. New headquarters set up in Texas, pouring over the borders. That's right, they're in Texas with the new headquarters. A few more details on that, and I'm going to give you an editorial from Tony Gonzalez, state representative, U.S. representative, congressman on the border, and what he says about this. And then I want to get into Kamala. Choose your own Kamala. She has no policies listed on her website. She tells you no policies. Anonymous aides tell you behind the scenes she's changed everything. She's now for fracking when she was against it, now for guns when she was against, all sorts of stuff. Who is she? She's whatever you want her to be. Just vote for her. She's like magic. You just make her up. You make up her policies. You'll find out after you put her in there. Is that exciting? Do you like that? Do you like taking a risk? We'll talk about that coming up next, too, at 9:04 on the Chris Crock Show on News Talk 820 WBAP and now on FM at 93.3.